Oh, hey YouTube. I'm just here enjoying my Cassette by Channel U. This is an ambient performer. I picked this up at Ambient Church here in Brooklyn, which is a pretty cool ambient concert series that happens around at different churches in Brooklyn, New York, or New York City. And yeah, so I picked up this cassette at the show. He opened up for Robert Rich. Robert Rich is one of my all-time favorite ambient musicians. But I was listening back to it on my old GPX all-weather sports cassette player. And I have actually two of these things. I have two of the exact same model. This one it looks a little bit worse as far as the condition, but this one actually sounds a little bit better than the one that looks better. So, but they both do still work. And anyway, but this video really isn't about that. What this is about is, you know, cassettes are pretty cool. They're pretty popular these days for indie hipster type people like me. And so, but, you know, what do you do if you don't really want to listen to it on cassette every single time? Well, a lot of people will give you a Bandcamp code that you can just go and download it. But what if you have a cassette that you want to just copy onto your computer? Well, of course you can do this with Audacity, and I've had several requests as to how to do this using Audacity, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a tutorial about it right now. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, the only real stereo cassette player I have at the moment are these. I also have my recorder, which you've probably seen my other video on the CTR 115, which is a mono stereo recorder. So I can't really use it for transfer because I won't get both channels. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this one, and I'm gonna hook it up to the computer, and we're gonna copy Channel U over to Audacity. And the only thing though with this particular cassette player is this thing picks up a ton of electromagnetic noise pollution in the air, which is pretty crazy. Like, I'll try to position it somewhere where it's not so bad. It's interesting though, like, this really is a way to detect how much electromagnetic pollution is actually in the air. Like, if you hold this thing near the Wi-Fi router, it's absolutely insane how much noise comes through the headphones. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so before we could even get started in the workings of Audacity, first you're gonna need to hook the cassette player up to your computer. So in order to do this, first you need to figure out a couple of things. First off, what kind of cassette player do you have, and what type of output does it have? Set down all these cables. In my situation, or my example here, I have a 1/8 inch output on this portable cassette player, and that's what I'm going to be using. So that means I will need a plug like that to go out from the actual cassette recorder or player. Now, if you have a regular cassette deck, chances are you're going to have a connection on the back that uses something like that, which is just standard RCA type connectors. Okay, so if you're going to be using the built-in audio device on your computer, and what I mean by that, the actual audio input that is on the computer without using any kind of external hardware or anything like that, which you can do if your computer has an audio device built in, you're going to need to figure out how that works first. So there's a few things to consider, or some computer audio devices, like a lot of desktops, they'll have one input for line, one input for mic, and then one output for headphones. In this situation, you'd want to be using the line input, which again, we'll be using most likely a plug like that, which is an 1/8 inch input. And the reason why you're choosing line over mic is because mic is going to have a microphone preamp in it, which is not going to be needed for the cassette player, since the cassette player already has an amplified signal. Okay, so now if you're using a laptop and the laptop is fairly new, sometimes you won't have any type of mic input at all, or line input. So in that situation, you're going to need to have some type of external device, and I'll go over that here in a minute. If you have a laptop that does have an input, and it's a modern laptop, a lot of times those inputs are actually combined with the headphone output. If that's the case, the way that you can know this is if you have a plug like this. Well, come on, focus there. Focus. Try to get it to focus. There we go. So if you have a plug like this that has the 4 connections on it rather than 3, let me see if I can show you the difference. See, that's a standard headphone plug. This is used on a lot of modern laptops to combine the headphone and the microphone. And the way to know that this is the case, well, a lot of times you'll see it in your system preferences, as well as if you're able to hook up a headset, headphone with a combination headset to your laptop and it works, then you'll know you have one of those kind of combination jacks. So in order to use the combination jack, you're gonna need to split the signal with an adapter kind of like this. So what this does is it plugs into the combination jack and then turns this into the headphone, standalone headphone output, and then the red one is the microphone input. So I'm gonna post links for all of this stuff down below. What else? Okay, so if you don't have a microphone or line input on your computer at all, you're gonna need an external audio device, a USB device such as this, which is a Behringer UCA 202. This is a great, inexpensive USB audio device, and it's very useful in a lot of situations. So this, you can see, it has just standard RCA connections, input and output, as well as a headphone output and a volume control on it. And then it also has a direct monitoring feature, and that's pretty useful for a lot of things. And what that means is anything you have plugged into the input, if you have direct monitor turned on, you will hear directly out of the headphone output without having to process it through your computer first. Okay, so I know that's a lot of stuff, but the way I'm going to be doing it is the USB input device, and I'm actually going to be using the one that I already have on my computer, which is, let's see if I can stretch this over here. I might have to turn the camera. Which is my Alesis IO4. This I can't post a link for because they no longer make this. So I'm going to be using the IO4 rather than the Behringer device, just because it's already hooked up, and for my situation it's a little bit easier. So in order for me to use that, what I'm going to need to do is use a cable kind of like this that has a 1/8 inch on one end that I'm going to run to the output, and then RCAs on the other end that I'm going to run to the input on the IO4. Now the IO4 doesn't actually have RCA inputs, so I'm going to use RCA to 1/4 inch adapters in order to plug it into my IO4. Now if you had the Behringer, then you wouldn't need the adapters, or you can just get the appropriate cable. So half of the battle, I mean 50, 60, 80% of the battle is just getting the correct plugs and cables and everything hooked up in order for it to work. So I'm just gonna plug in to my output from my cassette, and then I need to find my adapters that I have for these, which are somewhere around here. Okay, so these are my RCA to 1/4 inch adapters, which you can see they just plug in like this on there, and then I'm going to plug these into my IO4. Okay, so now I'm plugged in, running out from there into my input. Here I'm using channels 3 and 4, and now all I need to do is to open up Audacity, and then we'll continue the tutorial over there. Alrighty, so now we're inside of Audacity, and you just need to check a couple of things here. First off, you want to make sure you have your correct audio interface selected, and I'm using Windows at the moment, so you can just leave this set to MME as audio host, or I mean you can change it to Windows Direct, it doesn't really matter, but MME is usually what I use. And then here on the second one, where the recording device, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate recording device selected. Now if I click this, you'll see I have my options here: microphone, Realtek audio. That is if I had the built-in, if I were using the built-in microphone on the computer, I would select that. Voice meter, that's software that I use for recording at the same time as other devices, so that's nothing really. And then Microsoft Sound Mapper, that allows Microsoft to determine which input to use. So you don't really want to do that because you won't really know what it is unless you go into your Windows settings. So, okay, I'm going to select IO 4. That's my audio input. Now, you noticed before when I clicked here, that is showing that's actually my voice right now, and that's picking up here. So I'm going to have to mute my microphone when I'm recording the cassette, just so it doesn't bleed over onto the cassette when I'm recording it. So, another thing that you might want to do, now again, this depends on your actual audio interface. Now, if you're using the Behringer UCA202, the one that I showed you, it has that direct monitoring feature, so you can just use that to hear the cassette as you're recording it, so you won't need to change any of the settings in Audacity. But if your audio input doesn't have any type of direct monitoring capability, what you'll want to do is go in here to recording, click on recording, and then you're going to go here and check software playthrough of input. This way you can hear the cassette actually while it's recording in real time. Now, like I said, if you have the hardware monitoring feature of whatever type of input you're using, you won't need that. So I'm going to uncheck it because mine has hardware input monitoring, so I don't need it for mine. Just click OK, and now I'm going to go ahead and get a cassette level. So I'm going to press play on the cassette. Now I'm going to click here again, and I'm not going to talk for a few minutes once this starts so I can make sure I'm getting a good level. And actually the noise isn't too bad right now on the cassette. Actually, I'm going to fast forward a little bit into where more stuff is going on, where it's louder, so I can get a better idea as to what the recording level is going to be need to set to. Okay, that looks pretty good. Better to be, don't be too high because you can always fix that. If it's a little bit low, that's okay. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit. Okay, that looks good to me, so I'm going to go ahead and rewind the tape. And this actual cassette player doesn't have a rewind, it only has a fast forward, so I have to turn the tape over and then fast forward to the end and then turn it back over and press play again. So what I'm going to do is get this back to the beginning, and I'm going to go ahead and record it. And I'm going to mute my mic, like I said, and I'm not going to show you guys the whole recording because that'll get really boring. But after I finish recording it, then I'll come back and finish up. Alrighty, it just finished recording, and okay, so first thing, let me go ahead and save it. Save project as. Then I'm going to call this Channel U for YouTube. Alright, well, while it was recording, I noticed some pretty awful sounds, like some pops and weird just cassette noises and stuff like that. So, actually, I think that is good that happened, because that gives me more things to try to show you guys of ways that you can clean up audio in Audacity. So first off, I'm going to fit to project by clicking this little icon right here, and that'll fit the entire recorded project to the window. Sometimes it takes a little while to do that. Okay, and now I'm going to rewind back to the beginning. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on the beginning. Now, one thing that we can do right off the bat is get rid of some of the background noise. So if we just play back, let me play back a little bit. Alright, you hear those pops right there? I'm actually not sure what was happening. I think it might have had something to do with my microphone. because once I just completely unplugged it, even though it was muted, it was interacting in a weird way with the cassette player. But I just went ahead and left them there to see if we can somehow fix those. In a normal circumstance, I would just re-record, but say you have like some horrible sounding piece of audio and you want to try to fix stuff like that, I figured we would give it a shot. But the first thing, though, that I want to do is remove the noise. And by the noise, I mean this sound. Like if you turn the speakers way up while I play this, you hear that like just kind of underlying little bit of noise that's going under the whole thing. So first thing, the way to get rid of this, I just highlight some of it like that, and then I go to Effect, and we go to Noise Removal, or Noise Reduction, rather. And now I'm just going to click Get Noise Profile. Now what it does is it takes that little bit of audio that I selected there, and it tells Audacity that that is the noise to be removed from the recording. So now what I'm going to do is highlight the whole thing, like that. Then we're going to go back to Effect, and back to Noise Reduction. And then now I'm going to go just click OK, because it's ready to go. And this might take a few minutes since it's such a long recording. Okay, and now you can see where all that noise was. That line looks a lot more flat now. It looks a lot better. So let's go ahead and hear a little bit. Horrible pops are still there. But the noise is gone. So let me zoom out a little bit. If I go forward in the recording, you can hear where there's no pops and it sounds better, like right here. Now they're still going on there too. Not so bad right there. But anyway, let's see what we can do to one of those pops. So let's go ahead and go back to the beginning here and zoom in. Let's find one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually go in here and highlight some of these clicks. Let's just do these two. Let's just do one to begin with. Okay, so we can hear that. Now let's go to Effect, and let's go to Click Removal. Now here, this is supposedly made more for vinyl, but since I have some clicks here on the cassette, we'll see if we can get rid of them. So let's go ahead and preview it first. Oops. Okay, so I need to select more audio first. So let's go ahead and do that. And this one looks a little bit too crazy to do with that, so I'm going to select these. Let's go back a little bit. Okay. Let's go back to Effect and click Removal. Now let's preview that. And it's still there. So let's lower this threshold a little bit. Max spike width. So let's go ahead and make this width a little bit bigger. Preview this. Sound is a little bit better. They're still not gone, but let's keep just messing with the controls. A little bit. Oops, too far. A little bit, but it's still, they're pretty audible. But I'm going to go ahead and click OK there. You can see that they got smaller. Alright, I've actually come back to this section. This is actually the day after of what you're just watching, because I read a little bit more about the click removal feature on Audacity, and it turns out they don't recommend selecting little sections the way I was doing it in the video. What they recommend is actually selecting the whole audio waveform, which is what I'm going to do right now. However, the developers of Audacity also say that, unfortunately, click removal effect is rather poor at detecting clicks. So that would explain why it really wasn't doing too much, but I'm going to go ahead and try it with the recommended settings right now, and we'll see if we get any better results. So here we go. So first off, rather than highlighting the individual clicks like I was doing, they recommend to just click here, to highlight your whole audio waveform. You could also double click on it, and that will do the same thing. And then we just go to Effect and go back to Click Removal. And now here's where you can play with the settings again. So I'm going to preview this. And I'm still hearing some clicks there. So let's go down lower. It sounded like the second one that time was slightly better. So let's do it even more. Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's not too much better than our original results that we were getting before, but let me keep going. That was slightly better. The last one was still pretty noticeable, but the thing is, if I go down too low, you'll start to hear distortion. Let's see how low we can go. Yeah, that's definitely distorting the audio at that point, and the clicks are still there, so it's not really helping that much. So I'm just gonna go and leave it at 66, and we'll go with that. But I don't think it's gonna be that much of an improvement over the way I was doing it originally in the video. So I just wanted to chime in here and let you guys know that I did have an update on that. So back to the previous video. But in this situation, you know, when they're that bad, you'd have to do some other things really to get rid of these. And what we can do is if we go here, and let's take this one again. Let's zoom way in here. Okay, now, this is where we're going to get into some crazy stuff. So let's get a little bit closer, zoom in even more. Okay, now if we switch to this draw pencil here, the draw tool. Oops, still need to zoom in even more. So let me go ahead and switch back to my select tool. Keep zooming in. There we go. Now, the draw tool allows you to actually redraw samples. So we can see these here. If I just flatten these out, where that click was. Alright, now let's zoom back out. Still there a bit, but not as bad. Let's hear how that sounds. Definitely better. And you get the idea. Like, you could actually... Oh, let's keep working on it. Let's go in a little bit more. Zoom in some more here. Because there was a second half of it there that we didn't get. Too much. You really have to zoom in. Now, of course, you can see this could become quite time-consuming. But, you know, it's also kind of fun. So, just to see how good you can make something that's pretty awful. Now, I'm not very good at drawing a straight line. Of course, I'm not sure if you can hold down Shift. Let me see if you can. No. That would be nice. They should make it so you could... Let me try Control. Okay, Control allows you to move one sample. And I guess that would be useful if you were doing... if it were a really, really small section that you're trying to fix. But maybe there is a way to draw a straight line and I just don't know. But if anybody knows, feel free to post it down below. Doing my best here. Not so great at drawing a straight line with a mouse. Nope, that's horrible. That's even worse. Come on, hand. There we go. It's a little better. Alright, let's try that. Let's zoom back out. And geez, somehow I made it worse. Oh wait, no I didn't. Okay. Well, there's the second part of it there that I really didn't get to. But as you can see, you can do stuff like that. Now, if it's a really short snippet like that, the other option too is just to do this. Just use your highlight or your select tool, select it, and delete it. It's not really going to mess too much up, just deleting a small section like that. Of course, since this has so many, it's going to, it won't be so great, but let me go ahead and get rid of some of those. So let's go ahead and zoom in more. Just delete that. Zoom out. Delete. Delete. And delete. Okay, so it's such a small amount of audio. It's not well, especially in this recording, since this is pretty much an ambient recording, you're really not going to notice much of a difference. I'll just play back that section. Okay, a couple little sections are still pretty bad there. Now, of course, this is an extreme example. And that's why I left it like this, because I just wanted to see what we could do here. All right, well, generally you could see what there is that you could do to like kind of help the audio. The noise removal really is the best. The click removal, it's not great, but it does help a little bit. Now, if we go further in this recording, it's not so bad up here. After I removed the cable completely, it stopped making the sound. So the other things that we're going to do before we turn this into like an MP3 or something, let's go ahead and zoom in on the beginning again. And let's remove the silence before the start of the first track. Delete that. And you could always do a fade in there too, like if you wanted to, like zoom in really close and do a fade in here. But it's not totally necessary. Just go to fade in. Okay, and then zoom that back out. Now, up here too, let's get rid of this. This is where I flip the tape over, and so there's a big spike there, so let's just delete that. Alright. And let me just save again. Okay, so let's highlight the whole thing by clicking this gray box area, or depending on what theme you have set up, it might be a different color. And now let's just go to Effect, and then go to Normalize. And now we're going to leave all of these boxes checked. And just click OK. Now this is going to get the level up to a standard level, or the highest level that it can be without it distorting. You can also use Amplify for the same effect, basically. Normalize does the channels independently, which is kind of nice. Okay, so that boosted everything up. And you can see all those pops and clicks there in the beginning. It's pretty awful. So this tape, excuse me, this tape has 2 songs on side A and 3 songs on side B. Now, these songs are not exactly the easiest to tell where they start and stop, but I'm guessing the stop of the first song is either here or here. But let me just play back these little sections. Okay, that sounds like it's still part of the same song. Let's hear it here. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm guessing that's probably the end of the first song. Okay, now, the 3 on side B look a little bit easier. so I'm not worried too much about those. Let's go ahead and trim off our end here. Delete that. And we can delete a little bit more out of the middle. Let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, so that's all blank space right there. Let's delete all this. Okay, now I've gone over this technique in several other tutorials, but I'm going to do it here again because it's pretty useful in a situation like this. So one of the things that makes exporting multiple tracks a breeze in Audacity, we just go to Tracks, we go to Add New, then we do Label Track. Now what this does, what you're going to see here, is if we just click on the very beginning of the file right here on the label track and hold down Control and press the letter B on the keyboard, that creates a new label. So here in that new label, I'm going to type in the song title, which is Dawn, D-A-W-N. Alright, now I'm just going to go where the second song starts, which was right around here. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, and press Control B again. And I'm going to do the name of the second song, which is Shadow Motion. Press Enter. Zoom back out. And where side B starts, which was like right around here somewhere. And you can tell by looking at the waveforms, just where they change. You can generally tell. Okay, so Control B. And this song is Flying Water. Oops. Make sure I'm doing my capitalization correctly. Zoom back out again. Make sure I'm in the right area where the second song starts. Okay. Control B. New Moon, comma, Owl. Oops. Night. And then go to the last song, which looks like it's right here. Yep. Control B. Side B dubbed much better than side A, as you can see. Alright, so have all my song titles in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, or I'm sorry, I'm going to go to Edit, and then Metadata. Here I'm going to type in my artist name, which is Channel U. Track title I'm leaving blank. Album title I'm putting in Shadow Motion. Well, it kind of has two titles, so I'll just type them both here. Gameland Project. Track number we leave blank. You can put in a year if you want. I think this is 2018 when this came out. Genre, ambient. Comments, I'm not going to put anything. And then, okay, so we leave the track number and the track title blank. We click OK. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to File and then Export Multiple. And then we're going to set our MP3 bitrate that we want to do, which a lot of times you'll want to do 192 or higher. And then joint stereo, that's fine. Now, here, where it says split files based on labels, those are all those labels we created. So, now we're going to leave that checked, or if it's on track, set that to labels. And then we're going to go to name files, and then make sure you check numbering before label track name. Now I'm going to choose my directory. Let's just put this on the desktop and create a folder. Select folder, and now just click export. Now you'll see it auto-populates all the song titles and track numbers based on the labels. Now it's just going to export all those songs to that folder. Alright, so after it finishes, it shows you the result right there. We can click OK. Now let's exit out of Audacity. Save, yes. Now if we look on my desktop, in the folder Channel U, there's all the songs. So let's go ahead and open up, well, let's not open up number 1 because it sounds pretty bad. Let's go to number 3. And there it is. So it's just that easy, folks. Audacity, once again, is a great tool for projects like this. Makes these kind of things really easy. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to my channel, click like and the bell icon, so that way you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. And you can check out the rest of my videos. I have a lot of stuff on here, Audacity tutorials, as well as music lessons, and all kinds of weird and cool stuff. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And be sure to check out my Patreon, which is just patreon.com/demonicsweaters. And I'll see y'all really soon, alright? Have a great week.